Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Amira of thelittlemushroomcap.com. Today I have a fun project to share with you. I made this bag several weeks ago and I thought it was fun to actually record the process with you. I didn't have such like a pattern to follow. I was just running with the scissors. Basically, I was just figuring things out as I go. That's why it took quite a long time before I actually got done, but I'm so happy that it's finished. I'm putting a comforter in there. It basically kind of holds everything together. Like I want to put quilts, I want to put comforters. This one is a queen size comforters and it fits really well inside. I also have a binding inside to keep the seams all neat and tidy. And actually the idea comes from the Dresden plate, and then on the other side is a window, which is a vinyl window, so you can see what quilts is in there. And it's just so pretty to kind of have this organizer to carry things around as well if you need to carry comforters around or quilts around. I love the Dresden plate. This is a perfect kind of like project for this big Dresden plate. So as with all the projects, I'm starting the project with cutting, and I'm using layer cake. This is Moda Fabrics Honey and Lavender by Deb's Train. It's a pretty collection with all the beautiful flowers and bees and ginghams. It's a perfect project for this one. I just feel so summery and such a spring colors as well. I don't know, it makes me so happy. So right now is the month of March 2024 and it's National Quilting Month in the US, I guess, and Missouri Star Quilt Company is offering a discount for 20% off notions and fabrics. So if you're watching this in March 2024, make sure you use the link down below. You'll get it 20% off in your cart if you spend over $50. If you're not watching this in March 2024, that's okay. The link is still valid for 15% discount. So make sure you use the link down below in the description box. For this Dresden plate, I am using a template from Missouri Star Quilt Company. It's for a 10-inch Dresden and it's the perfect size to cut layer cake. So once I have all the variation, it was ready for me to put things together. So the first thing that I need to do, because I want a pointy Dresden, I have to sew the top part of this Dresden. Basically, I'm folding in half and I'm sewing a 1/4 inch away from the top seam. Using a small stitch length because I don't want it to be unraveling so easily, and it was such a short distance, so that's why shorter stitch length would actually work for this. I am just chain piecing all of the pieces at once. I am making more than just one half Dresden. I am making another quilt, but for this particular project I'm actually just using 10 of the Dresden plate to make a half semi-circle, semi-flowers. So to turn it into a pointy Dresden, what I need to do is just turn it right side round, and I'll use a tool to poke the points so that it's sharper and crisp, and then I fold it in half, finger press so that I know where the seam goes. It will actually just guide me where the center is so that I get my pointy bit right in the middle. And then I'm using this M3 Pro project iron from Oliso, which I just recently got. It's so beautiful, cute, but it's very powerful in terms of its steam as well. So I selected 10 of the plates to put together as a half Dresden flower, and I'm putting each of the plate right sides together and sewing them right next to each other. So this is when you're just putting it onto the background fabric, putting it together. So I'm using a gingham for the background fabric, and I'm putting this Dresden flower by sewing it right sides together from one plate to another. And I am using a reverse stitch at the beginning just to secure those stitches because it might unravel if you're not doing that. and I'm just using a 1/4 inch. As you can see here, I have the washi tape which kind of guide me the 1/4 inch. I'll put a link down below as well in the description box for the washi tape. I love this washi tape for guiding me for the 1/4 inch and also for diagonal seams. Once I've sewn all of the 10 plates together, it's time to press them again. So I press the seam open and flat, and now it's ready to be placed onto the background fabric. So to baste it onto the background fabric, I am using this glue. And this is like a temporary basting, so it does not stick very well, but it does the job well to just keep it together before I sew them down to apply it onto the background. So I'm using the glue and then using the iron to kind of dry up so that it gets sticky onto the background.
Golden things, gold hair, gold rings, gold leaves.
Now it's time to make the center. For the center, I cut 2 semicircle and I sew around the curve and I clip. Again, the same thing with the Dresden flower. I am just basting it onto the background as well.
Walk up the river by my side.
I'm using the glue. It's temporary basting. I am taking it off later when I'm sewing it together. You can see that as I'm sewing the plates onto the background. But I just put the glue just to put things, make sure that things are in place in the center as I piece the bottom half of this panel. So this front panel actually consists the Dresden flower on top, and there is a second half at the bottom which is a solid print. Now that I have all of them basted, it's time to actually put this together. So I'm sewing this bottom half just as I would a normal sewing piece, just putting it right side together and sewing that in the seam. So I have a 1/4 inch seams as well. And then now it's time to quilt these pieces. So I'm putting a softened stable in the middle and also a backing, and it's time to quilt all of the 3 layers together. Starting from the base, I am just making straight lines as I have in plan just now. I was going to make a straight line for the bottom part, and then I'm just going to trace over the Dresden plate and have some spirals as the background. As you can see, I'm taking off the center part, so now that it's actually stuck in the seam, it's okay to kind of like take it off so that I can put this Dresden plate. I quilt the Dresden plate by following really close to the edges, and this is basically applying the piece onto the background and also quilting it at the same time. So it's called quilting as you go, and I love this method for applique because it's kind of securing the stitches and also give that pops so that it pops out from the background. So I'm just continuing that for the first plate and also for the rest of the plate. Once I'm done with all the So now I'm making the zipper panel. For the zipper panel, I am using again the soft and stable. I cut a very small kind of like 2-inch, and I had to piece this together because the soft and stable weren't that long for this project. It was a big project, so I had to kind of piece the soft and stable together with some zigzag so that it's long enough to cover the whole length of the zipper part. So I do want to have the zipper, as you can see from the beginning of the video, the zipper kind of goes from the side to the top and on the other side. Only the base does not have any zipper, so I had to calculate, kind of like measure in my head, and also measure the piece, the panel on the sides, each of the side, and added them up. And I had to piece some of the soft and stable to make sure that it's long enough. So this soft and stable is going to be quilted with the front fabric for the zipper. So I do have a front fabric, which is the top fabric, and also the lining fabric. And I am going to quilt this soft and stable with the top fabric, which is the bee, the little white bees. Here I am quilting it. So again, I'm piecing the fabric onto the soft and stable and quilting it at the same time. Some part of this soft and stable currently is exposed, and I don't really mind about that because I am going to cover it later on with a lining fabric. So once that's done, I have 2 long pieces for this zipper panel, and I'm using this zipper by the yard. I'm going to put a link down below as well. This is my first time using zipper by the yard, and I love it because you can just cut it to the right size, and it's so easy to sew with as well. As you can see here, I'm putting the lining fabric and also the top zipper panel, and I'm sewing that zip in the middle so that when I done sewing with that, the zipper will be hidden inside the lining and also the front panel of the zipper. I use pin rarely, but for this project I did have to use some pins. So this does make things better. So if you are a pinner, make sure you pin all your pieces first, even though you want to go as fast as you can. I'm using a walking foot for most of the things. I didn't bother to change it to a zipper foot because my walking foot kind of walks over everything. So that is the first side done. And same with the other side, putting the lining and also the top part. Once I'm done with the zipper panel, it's time to put the zipper pull. I am going to press it a little bit so that it's all neat and done, but I'm putting this cute little zipper pull on top. I'm using this flower zipper pull. You can get all different sort of zipper pulls. I'll put a link down below to all of those as well if you want to check them out. Now that I'm done with the zipper panel, I am ready to piece it to the bottom panel. The bottom panel is basically a piece that is also quilted, and it's from this solid print, the same as the base. I'm making it the same as the base, and I quilted the panel and then I put the lining fabric, and now it's time to put them all around together. So basically this is how it looks like at the other end. So it has to be in a loop, I would say. So what you have to do is piece it in a loop so that it goes around the whole front panel, or also the back panel of the organizer bag. So this is how I do it, so that the seams is inside. Basically I put the outer panel and then the lining inside like this, and I sew them all together so that it becomes a loop. Now it's time to piece the frame for the other side of the bag, which is the back side, the open window side, and I use the same fabric for the zipper panel, and I did put some interfacing just to give it a little bit of a structure. So this is how I do it. I made a frame all the way around the vinyl piece. Once that's done, I am trimming it off to the right size. Oops, another one. Just before we sew all the panels, I actually wanted to make a handle. So I made the handle using this gingham fabric, and basically just hiding a bit of a shorter length of this soft and stable. I wanted to make the part where the handle kind of sewn onto the panel free, not that thick. So I did have to cut my soft and stable shorter than the length of this whole handle. So this is how I did it. So I pin it in place onto the zipper panel and sew that end together, and I made the handle a little bit popping out by sewing it shorter and just pushing it and then sewing it on top of the zipper panel. Now it's time to put all the bags together. We have the back panel, we have the front Dresden panel, and I'm just going to sew all of that together around in a loop. So this is as normal as it can be, but it was really a big project, so it was kind of hard to maneuver. Definitely not a beginner project, but if you're used to making bags, this is not as hard. It's just big, and you do have to kind of slow down to put everything together. So I'm putting this right sides together, and you have the seams inside, which I am later going to cover it with some binding. So it is time to cut some binding as well. So if you can see here, I'm just sewing the panels together, right sides together, and just sewing all the way around for both of the panels. Now I'm cutting a 3-inch binding strips. I think I did 2 3¼ binding strips, and this is the same thing that I would do for a quilt. So I basically bind the seams inside the bag just as I would bind a quilt. It was a little bit difficult, but basically the technique is the same. Using 2 3/4 inch of binding fabric to make the binding. So basically I cut 2 3/4 inch of strips and piece them as long as I needed it. It was quite a lot of binding because you need to bind both of the panels, the seams inside, and basically I'm just doing this as I would a quilt as well. It's just that I'm using a larger binding strips. I fold it in half and I press them so that you have this long binding to get started with binding the inside seams all the way around from the front panel and also the back panel. And once that's done, the bag is done. I'm just closing up the seams all around it, and I did this exactly the same as I would a quilt, especially at the corners. I did the same thing. I folded it back to the top and then back to the bottom, and just machine binding it all the way. You can also use hand binding, hand stitching if you like, but I wasn't that patient. So basically this is how I do it, and now it's actually a complete bag. So this is the final look of the bag. I absolutely love it. It was quite a challenging project for me as it was really bigger than I actually anticipated, but it was definitely a fun project, and I love the fabric combination. Definitely a really lovely fabric collection as well. So if you like this kind of video, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have more videos like this in the future, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day of quilting and sewing. Till next time, bye bye.